if you're as fascinated about collection and even high collection, and if you dream about unlocking this within your horse so that you can truly enjoy it with your own horse, no matter if you're on ground or riding, then this video is absolutely for you. So what we are going to focus on in that video is about helping you to raise your awareness, to observe more, to see when is the horse truly lifting in a thoracic sling, when is the horse lifting the front end, when is the horse shifting the weight back to the hindquarter, and when does it start that movements like chambette, school hold or passage start to emerge. Because there are multiple pieces to being able to fully enjoy those movements with your horse in action. Because yes, for one, you have to know the theory about what principles allow the horses to express those high collected movements. But then there's also another piece where you have to develop some awareness and some skills of being able to see the horse being on that journey to lift the front and shift the hind quarterback. Because if you're anything like Tony and Ivor when we started with this journey, I tell you in the beginning, we didn't see anything of this. This was just not in our awareness to see if the front end lifts, or when the horses. We fully missed it when they started to step a little bit higher, or had a little bit of a longer hanging face, or they started to break the forebeat into more diagonal stepping. We didn't see it. So this is what I want to help you with, and help you to see it, raise your awareness, first here in this video, where I actually took a highlight sequence from the last video uploaded with Tango and me, where we are on the journey of exploring how we can unlock some passage in her. So I took some sequences where I saw, okay, something is happening here, and what I'm going to do now is to slow those sequences down, stop it, and help you to teach your eye where to look at, so you see when all of those wonderful things are happening. Because in the beginning, sometimes they're happening a little bit or really quick, and if you don't know where to look, or if you blink at those moments, you may miss it. So this is what I'm going to help you with, and I'm super excited. I hope you will take a lot of learnings out of it. And first of all, we will have a look at how a passage can look like in horses who are already doing it, and in horses different breeds. So what we always say, it's a natural collection. The horses are already they're born with it, it's innate within them. And of course, all horses, they're individual, right? They have different breeds, different conformation, different character, different spirit. So therefore what we are doing here is we say it's natural collection, your horse's choice. They can choose when they do which collected movement. Like, we don't have an agenda that we say first this one, then this one, then this one, and your horse's way. So what I show you now first is some different passage versions where the horses do it in their own way, and then I dive into this highlight reel with Tango, where I help you to raise your awareness to observe more about collection unfolding. See you in there.
All right, so let's have a look here at this passage from a warm blood mare. And all those sequences are fairly short, so I'll go back. So the plan was that we have a look at some of the ingredients, as we call it, or components, meaning we look at what kind of ingredients are here in the passage the horses do naturally, so that whenever we want to explore the journey towards passage, like I do here with our quarter horse, my Tango, who has never yet done a passage yet. So we see how can we model those ingredients from other horses doing passage, so we can help our quarter horse mare to unlock it freely, willingly, and in a natural way. So what we surely can see here is that this warm blood mare, she has a fairly high head neck position, so her pole is fairly high. And if we look at her step length, for example, of her left front, it is also shorter than a non-collected trot. So it's slightly shorter, and especially if we now look at the right front, it is higher. And a fourth component, because one is the high pole position, then we said a shorter step, then the third was a higher step, and then we see also a next component here, or ingredient in the Grand Passage, is that the diagonal pair, right hind, left front, seems to kind of stay longer on the ground in comparison to a non-collected shot, so that the other diagonal pair, left hind, right front, can stay longer in the air. So what means the right front leg doesn't only come higher in the air, the forearm and the carpal joint, but also stay for longer in the air. Okay, I go back to the beginning, play it in normal speed and have a look. Okay, now next version. This is our Arabian horse, Casper, and here we have the main focus obviously on the forelegs. And here you see the same ingredients, slightly shorter step length in comparison to non-collected shot, and the forearms carpal joint come definitely higher than in non-collection and stay longer in the air. Have a look. Which gives a little bit of this skipping look. So here we have our warm blood Ludwig, and here people even started to call him welcome to Airlines Ludwig, because you see he has generally the same ingredients in his body, same components, same position, but he positions himself really higher from the pole. He lifts therefore the whole front end higher, so therefore he launches up relatively more up than forward. Have a look. So it looks slightly different, and this is why we say we allow the horse to choose, and we allow it to do it in their way. So here is our young warm blood, Fame, and oh, why was that short? Let's have a look again. It's really a really short sequence, so it goes through slowly, okay? And you see same components again. And here again the warm blood mare from a student. Alright, so I think you get a bit of an idea of what some ingredients are, what I'm looking for, and like described in the full length of that video here with Tango, which we posted prior to what you're seeing here. I use the 3-step framework as a guideline to play with the principles horses use naturally to unlock collection. And what I'm doing here now is helping you just to raise your awareness and help you to train your eyes of seeing more collection to unfold. So I play the sequence again, because what we already see here is she has for sure a high pole position and her steps are short, but if we compare to the passaging horses, too short, but which is fine, because I take the complex task, complex movement of a passage apart and just look at the individual ingredients. What she does in a second is a diagonal, like here. Did you see that hop? I'll show you again. This is one ingredient we highly likely will see in the passage, like now. So here she's almost scratching on a do passage actually. So this is already something worth to celebrate and amazing that all this happens. As you see, just from my body energy, I ask the pole to come up, stay next to me short, and I ask her to put some power in through my body energy, and that's it. Like, have a look. There's no whip active or nothing, which is really amazing. So then here, have a look at this. I hope it's not flicking too much, but things are happening fast here. So I go through slow. Here I can have a look, for example, the pec muscles in relation to the tape in the background, or below here, just behind the foreleg, we can see how, not yet. It's rising a little bit, but hardly to see here, right? We will see it more later. So, but what we can see is that she steps up and forward, like we see here one ingredient from our passage, like the forearm pretty close to horizontal, carpal joint really high, and especially here for our quarter horse, this is not in her daily repertoire. So this is really cool, and how she steps not just up but also forward. And now with this forward down step, we see here, if we look at that shoulder area, that she drops a little bit, like everything, her pole, her head obviously is connected, The neck, everything, the thoracic sling, the shoulder, everything drops with this fairly big step. And until, okay, we go in the standstill pose here anyway. So I think this is already great for you to see. Because if you, of course, we want to learn to see how the horses come up, but the more you can see how they come up, and also the more you can see how they come down, the more you can turn it around. You see the up as well. So we have to be able to see both. So here we see really nice that the left front leg is behind the vertical, and with this relatively low head neck position and the big step, everything collapses towards non-collection. Still, some cool things were happening here. So now, remember this here, how she is vertical, in front of vertical with the right front, yeah, but the left front is quite far behind vertical, and I said she leans with her big heavy head, which is of course normal for horse, and the long neck, she leans forward and down, which out of physics loads her front end. Now let's have a look at this. Here she has the high pole position, the left front is vertical, and now she can pull her thoracic sling up super nice. Let's see if we go through slowly, if we see a change. So the pole comes up, have a look. Pole comes up, and now, yes, she takes her hind legs really nice under. And what we now can look at, we can look at the withers, like you see there this part here from the mane, and compare it to the background, to the trunk in the background. And now have a look how, from now on, it's rising up. She stretches up and then even forward. Another point you can look at is here at the pastern. Have a look how she stretches up. It's like she extends her. If she would have springs in here, they would extend, which is really cool to see if you go here backwards and forwards. Like, this is something we love to do for ourselves and with students, to go backwards, forwards, so your awareness can see it in slow motion, so that one day you can see it with your horse while you're alive and active. And then the same pattern, she does a fairly big step forward, drops in the pole, everything drops, and she loads her front end again into non-collection. Nothing bad about it, it's just non-collection versus collection. Okay, explained here. So now what you could see, that she starts to position her front legs different, because we have the right front leg slightly in front of vertical, the left behind, but now have a look what she does with the left front, also in front of vertical. Now she is really positioned in a way that she easily can bring her thoracic sling more up, maintain it up, and let's have a look what she's doing then. Yes, and now she brought the left hind under, and now let's have a look how she's rising again in that whole front end, shoulder, chest area. We go back again and up. Like, for sure there's more capacity, she could come up, but it's still quite a nice lift. And here you can see again, because we are surely aware that people still spread the myth of high head neck position, meaning high pole, and you get a hollow back, but I think Tango shows pretty clearly a hollow back is quite far away. So the opposite, the back line gets really straight, and you see how the abdominal muscles are under tonality, they get really tight, and give her this nice look of the slim belly here, where you see how engaged, how active the muscles are. So this was really nice, because now she started to take that lift in the thoracic sling and the lift of the forearm into some forward motion. Like before it was more towards school halt, and now you could almost say it's a chambette with a bit of fantasy, and then she steps forwards. So these are all, again, ingredients: the high pole for the passage, and the lift in the thoracic sling, then the forearm lift that high. Like, if you imagine if she does this in a trot, then you're not just probably not just in a passage, or some people call it grand passage, you're probably even in a Spanish trot. So again, we have the component of the high pole, the high forearm, and the even of a cannonbone forward, like the up and forward motion, and even the step length goes close to a passage. So already quite some happening. Okay, I just skip here the pause. Here we see again, I help you a bit for your awareness, how she, I go more to the beginning. So here she comes up, and shifts the weight backwards. So she went kind of from our first step of the 3-step framework, head and neck up, into the second step, head and neck up and shifting the weight back. And now she starts to pull her neck spine even a little bit back and up. And now she maintains that up position nice and takes it into forward. So here you see our 3-step framework performed while its legs even stand still, which is pretty cool. So she first scratched on towards school hold and then on some chombette and takes it into the forward. And all this I take the 3-step framework to connect with her and see how can I cause her, encourage her to have an internal reorganization with the lift of the thoracic sling, shift to the hindquarter, that the leg movement become a side effect, a bonus, a side effect. Let's stick with that. So you see, I'm not going for leg tapping or anything what people do, like most people focus, or most equestrian education systems, they would say now, hey, pull the head and neck in, pull the face more towards vertical, tap the leg under, tap the front legs that they become more expressive. All that is not needed, and we believe is even holding back the real internal reorganization. It's holding the horse back to allow to unlock true natural collection. Now let's have a look again for the lift. Okay, so she starts to lift the pole, then the front end rises, which pulls the front leg up. So we have a diagonal here, left hind, right front. Now let's have a look again. Let's compare the withers to the background. And here she's rising really nice. Then she dropped a little. I go backwards and forwards again for you to see. She comes up, she comes up, she comes up, she comes up. Wow, look how full she gets here. And this is also why we love to call those movements power movements, because they look so powerful and majestic, the way how they fill out. And this is something we have not yet seen when people condition and kind of train horses into seemingly collection. They stay really slim, but look at her, she fills out, she looks like a stallion here. And then she drops again. And then you really see how the shoulder, everything, the thoracic sling drops, like you have opened a kind of ventile where the water whoosh goes out. And then she comes up again. So you can compare the forearm against the background. You can look here, the girth area against the background. You can have a look at what is the leg doing. In this case, not so much. So more happened here in the forearm and up here in the shoulder and wither area. And then she drops again. So this is really so cool that we live in that time edge, that we have the possibility of slowing everything down here and look almost frame by frame. Also what you can see here is that her pendulum of the four legs start to change. Like when the horses are non-collection, the front legs go fairly far under the belly before the front hoof lifts off the ground to go forward again. And often, as the horses have a constant lean and fall forward and down into the non-collection, which is natural, and their bodies are meant to do this, similar like our bodies. Percentage-wise, the front legs are quite often percentage-wise behind the vertical. But now, the more the horse gets collected, and even high collected, do we see what the right front leg did? Yeah, so let's have a look at the right front, okay? It comes down. It's clearly in front of vertical. Stay right now fully with the right front. Like now, it's just behind the vertical and it comes up again. Now let's have a look at the left front, okay? So it's slightly more behind the vertical, but almost so minimal in comparison to a real non-collected walk. And then she steps forward. Way more than with the right one, but still really interesting to see how the pendulum of the forelegs start to change and is percentage-wise way more, let's say, way less behind the vertical and closer to the vertical line when they take the hoof off the ground again. Awesome. And here even the change that she started to take her up and lean back more into the forward stepping. And here we see also diagonals coming, right hind, left front, which is also an ingredient we need for the passage. And shortly left hind, right front. And then she lifts herself so much up and that she plants the other feet again. So here you also see, like, yes, for the 3-step framework and for unlocking collection, we asked the horses to come up in the pole. But now you see she starts to lift so much that she even lifts her pole more on her face line. I didn't ask her that, so you see that my hand stays passive. But I feel it and allow her to do it. And yes, most people now would feel really offended of how vertical her cervical spine is, and she is literally horizontal with her face. Yet what happens internally here in her body is still phenomenal. Like you see, even in that position, she's not in a hollow, and she's simply not pulling her neck spine back and up. So people think she's developing an underneck. Of course, it's not possible because this ventral muscle here from the underneck is elongated, and you would build an underneck if it would be under contraction, so shortened, but it's elongated here. So it's simply not yet developed, far developed, but we allow the horses to do it, and over time they progress. That is for sure. So here we see, I go through slowly again, where she scratches on some passage, because here now she puts some power in and jumps from off the diagonal, which is an ingredient again of the passage, and it's way easier to see here in slow motion. I'll show you again in fast speed, so you're not allowed to blink. It's not a real passage yet, but pretty close. And then she goes into collected canter. And then here she gets a fly problem between her legs. I just skip forward. Alright, so this is mainly what I wanted to point out for the session. So what we see now in the last seconds is mainly repeating. But I hope it already gives you a bit of an idea of what to look at, because of course when I record those sessions and moderate, there are a lot of things I see, maybe sometimes you can't see it. So this is why I thought it might be a good plan to rip out some pieces of those sessions and slow them down here with the help of our technology, and give you a chance to see what I'm talking about. So also here, look at the diagonal left front, right hind. It starts to come more up and forward. Like this is not her, she would not move her front legs like this in her normal non-collected shot. Even in the next one more, I think. Yeah. So not a full passage yet, but it is on the way. Still some fly problem. Then she goes into collected canter. And then I go back to less forward motion to see how can I encourage her to come up more before we went into more forward motion. Okay, awesome. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you got some insights out of it, and that for one, yes, I want to help you to raise your awareness, to improve your skills of where to look at, what you see, how to compare the withers to the background, and to see those little changes of the front end lift and the weight shift to the hindquarters. Start seeing front leg or legs getting diagonal, like left front, right hind, for example, and to understand the components, the ingredients of those different collected movements more and more. And I surely can understand that with all this you cannot yet go out, or maybe you can, who knows, but the more you spend time with this, the more all of the pieces you understand, the more you can play with it. And especially what I want to give you with this is give you that belief that all this is doable. For one, the horses, they already can do it, they all have it all within as we speak, but that we people, like, I'm a normal person, I'm an ordinary woman, like I'm not a, I didn't get born gifted of knowing all that, being able of, um, I didn't have all the skills, like I practiced it. And this is what I wanted to show you here, that it's so easy doable if you have a pathway that really leads you to where you want to go, like to those natural high collected movements, to those powerful majestic movements, doing it through connection, through allowing the horses to do it, to choose which movement to do it their way. And this is really the most beautiful way, and this is where we want to inspire you and motivate you and help you to the belief that it's so achievable now. Not in a year. You can surely get started now. Okay, see you in the next video.